The mission has officially started, as they've not only fought the first batch of blood bags, but also the blood fiends. And there's more to come.
After the battle, the psychotic blood fiend was begging for her life. Where apparently it's been 200 years since she was full, asking if they knew what it felt like to have that bloodthirst eat them alive for that long. Excusing this as getting too excited, Otis was willing to think about it if she told them where the device was. The blood fiend told them to head over to that attraction over there, and was willing to tell them about a shortcut that would lead them straight to the button. Enter and immediately turn right. Deadweight Hugo eagerly took this in. Then before the blood fiend could say anything more, and before Otis could react, Don Quixote killed her, saying that they don't bargain with villains, asking if they can't see the corpses of their previous innocent victims. They appear to be fresh bodies. Dante couldn't deny the mangled corpses, hours since their deaths at most. This didn't cut any ice with Otis, as much time could have been saved with that shortcut, saying that there are times where they must compromise with their foes to get an advantage. Don Quixote argued back that this shortcut might be a deceit from their enemy. Otis was annoyed by Don Quixote's black and white morality. Heathcliff told Otis to leave her alone. This isn't the first time this has happened. Besides, enemy reinforcements were approaching, and dead weight his baggy pants at the sight of the blood bags. Never mind the blood fiends. After more fighting with Dante directing the damned dozen and dead weight hiding in terror, Dante was surprised that the blood bags didn't come back to life, forgetting that they weren't in the warp train in transit, seeing them as fixers seeking riches, civilians turned guests, drawn to that place by its music, each with their own dreams. Unnerved by the fact that they've stopped feeling anything about killing things like them. This sentiment was shared by Sinclair, who was saying this as he thrust his halberd into the skull of a dying blood bag. Gregor saw that the weapons that the blood fiends were holding were similar to what Ishmael was approaching silently as Gregor completed that sentence nervously. Etty wielded. Ryushu saw that it was decorated with blood. Mesalt saw it as coagulated blood, identical in essence to his weapon. Sinclair asked if that's how all blood fiends fight. Ishmael sees them as like close relatives, if Moses' family analogy was a good fit. Then Otis saw the attraction that the blood fiend from earlier was talking about. Ishmael saw it as the main attraction of the area. Yisang saw that, that they had to enter regardless of the questionable reliability of their information. Within the main attraction of the area, the narrator welcomed them to fantasy blood-shooting range. Clearly not real guns, as firearms are expensive as... The narrator advised the little ones to hang on to their parents' hands, as this might get scary. The narrator also advised the fashionista show attraction. They worked hard on it, as they'll dispense a free souvenir gift to those that visit. Then the narrator was spooked by Sancho, confirming that she's thinking of giving out souvenirs there, as Lady Dulcinea won't stop teasing her about how her attraction doesn't get many visitors, Gregor didn't know what was going on. Roger was thinking that this was amateur hour. Then the narrator asked if they want to know something. Yi-Sang noticed the improvement in the recording's audio quality, where the narrator told a story. Long ago, blood fiends and hunters weren't as friendly as they were now, asking if they saw it as sad and tragic. Dante reacted to this, as the narrator continued by saying that they hated each other, every meeting resulting in big brawls. Blood fiends hunted humans on sight, while humans spilt blood fiend blood, rather than devouring it, full of hate for their kind, asking what will they do against the bad blood fiends. The damned dozen were silent. Then the narrator asked again, what shall they do? Sinclair nervously said, talk them out of it? Sir. The narrator saw this as the wrong answer. Don Quixote knew. She told the narrator that they must all be punished, so that the humans can't be hurt by them, or in more colourful terms, kill them. The narrator saw this as correct. Then a blood bag appeared. The narrator gave them a chance to defeat those bad blood fiends, seeing this as exciting, as she laughed deranged. Yes, laughing derangedly. Yes, there shall be... Well, after that, Dante received another memory from Don Quixote when someone said that in that land there shall be no battles to fight, no fear of being devoured. There shall be only laughter. Yeah, clearly this attraction has a sweetened and simplified version of some ancient history. Much as Animal Farm is a sweetened and simplified version of Russia's history, specifically how the monarchy there was replaced by an authoritarian regime that was just as bad, if not worse, than what came before. Anyway, after that, Dante came to their senses and directed the battle for the damned dozen, while Dead Weight hid somewhere away from the fighting. After that battle, the narrator believed that the children would be excited for the part of the attraction called Today, I'm this area's fixer, where the bad blood fiends appeared, where they used toy clubs that was handed out to them at the entrance to knock them down. So you wanted them to play Whack-A-Blood Fiend, where even adults can play. They can beat the stress out of their system. Then she talked to someone else, telling them that they don't need them to pretend that they're hurt, not anymore. Only the real blood fiends remained. The narrator continued with the story, telling that the bad blood fiends who wanted to hurt humans had been driven underground. Only the kind-hearted, righteous blood fiends remained on the surface. They swore to the humans that they wouldn't covet human blood anymore, that they'll live peacefully together. What's better than peace? Then she pointed out that the no-good blood fiends were back on the surface again, sneaking up to them to drink human blood. Then the damned dozen were forced to defend themselves against more blood bags and blood fiends. After that, the narrator continued the story by telling how the humans grew scared of the bad blood fiends, how they might come back to hurt them again. They're not getting any sleep because of this, and that's important to skin maintenance. A bad sleep cycle can lead to hair loss and various nasty skin conditions. Roger saw the point in her words. That was when a righteous and just fixer came up with an idea. What if a place was created where humans and blood fiends can coexist? There, the good blood fiends can protect humans from the bad ones. where humans can voluntarily share their blood with the good blood fiends, asking if that's an ingenious idea. Yes, an ingenious idea. At least in theory. Don Quixote saw this as impossible. Humans and blood fiends coexisting with each other. They have nothing but the base craving for human blood in their hearts. The narrator understood how such grand, impressive ideals would be met with some resistance, but a great leader was often flanked by, or rather with, capable vassals who helped them realize their ambitions, and soon, La Mancha Land was born, where smiles of joy bloom, where everyone can dream free. Look at all the smiling blood fiends giving you a toothy grin. Yeah, toothy grins from the blood bags and blood fiends, which charged the damned dozen wanting their blood. After that battle, the narrator continued the story where the fixer asked, what was missing from the perfect La Mancha Land? Dante was silent. Heathcliff was asking how long she was going to talk. Otis saw this as unpleasant. She was underestimating them, talking their ears off with this nonsense. This before sending in her minions. Heathcliff asked if she was listening, remembering the reply that she gave earlier. The narrator asked if he can see what's missing. Once you're in the Manchaland, shouldn't you wear something that fits the occasion, along with elegant yet tasteful flamboyant masks, like that, which made it sound like a festival. Honglu cheerfully noted that they know now who did the pretty makeovers for the blood bags who escaped La Manchaland. Yisang saw it as a repugnant habit. Ryushi wasn't impressed, seeing this as hackneyed and boring in terms of beauty. Hardly worth her time. Yeah, she's an arts critic. As for the narrator, thanks to all of them, La Manchaland found perfection. With its quarrel quelled, blood fiends and humans now can live in harmony. Living in everlasting festivities, the final tally of the bad, evil blood fiends the kindly adventurer has slain is... Oh, she lost count. But it was a lot. My response to this is... spare me the propaganda. Although I suspect that this wasn't always the case and something happened to result in the current state of affairs. Then the narrator asked for the name of the adventurer. And then Dante received the memory of Don Quixote, where a familiar voice told her that there was that was the condition of her venture, if she's willing to accept those terms. Then she should speak her name to him. Don Quixote told the narrator her name. The narrator considered her just as insane as the rest of them. She was using that name. After a pause, she addressed brave adventurer Don Quixote. The adventurer and her friends placed first in the fantasy blood shooting range competition, congratulating them. As for their reward, a button that opens the path to the finest attraction of all time in the La Mancha Land, the haunted Bloody Mary. The highlight of the Mancha Land, the frightening challenge that only the bravest of adventurers dare face. Dante asked if this was the device that would lead them to their next destination. Heathcliff saw this as too easy. They even bring the button to them. Deadweight Hugo spoke of the information that he bought. According to that, there was a 25% chance of surviving through the first area. Not great, but not terrible. They made it to the button. That's what matters. Ishmael wanted to know, what he meant by that. Are there more testimonies from survivors that, well, rather than they heard from the briefing? The one that they were in earlier. Dead Weight found this amusing, seeing them as new to the business. Fixers that managed to survive La Mancha Land would just fork over precious intel to the Hunter Association. Well, that's the idea, but no. The smart ones apparently sell it to those interested and can pay for it. Yes, for those that can afford it, it'll be sold on to them. So Hugo is like the one with 7 association of specialization. They also told him that to activate the device in Area 1, they'd have to kill all the blood fiends in that attraction, and place first in the leaderboard. Urtis wanted to know why he neglected to tell them. Hugo was looking like he was about to himself again. When he answered that they needed time to build the trust between them before he did that, Roger understood that the intel wasn't cheap to come by. Hugo was relieved that she understood this. Gregor asked if their mission had ever gone smoothly before. Dante asked if they pressed the button, their job is done. And even Dante admitted that it was too easy. But they can't not press the button. Sinclair was feeling optimistic, as they can press the button, get out of Area 1 and help the others. Massault knew that information regarding blood fiends and blood bags was rare for public access. Those unfamiliar with them would find it difficult to get to first on the leaderboard. Gregor couldn't argue otherwise. Urtis didn't back down, asking Hugo what else was he withholding from them. What more trust does he need? She shoved Hugo, physically threatening him with the emphasis on the word trust. Hugo chose his words carefully. He told them that they have to avoid 3 specific blood fiends at all costs. They're overseers. Avoid them if you want to improve your survival chances. There's 1 in each area, but there's nothing in the terms and conditions of the contract that says that they had to kill them, as they don't have anything to do with eradicating La Mancha Land. Telling them to hit the button and leave before that particular overseer turns up. Don Quixote couldn't just leave that blood fiend to live. Hugo looks at her as if she was high, surprised that she can't let that overseer live. Don Quixote knew if the visitors to that place still suffered, seeing the only righteous path was to defeat all 3 of those overseers. They watched over those slaughterhouses. She wanted them to pay. Hugo wanted the others to talk her out of that insanity. Gregor knew that it'd probably be pointless. Don Quixote demanded that the overseer show herself. She will vanquish her. Roger asked Hugo, what did the overseers look like? This annoyed Hugo as that intel cost 2 million an. But a murderous look from Ryushu, as if she wanted to slice his neck clean, convinced him to say that they wore the gaudiest masks. This resulted in laughter from a distinctive-looking blood fiend, seeing this as the most fun she had all week. Hugo added that their masks stood out for being extremely gaudy. She's nearby, so why are you saying that? Ryushu believed them to have a pretty gaudy smell of blood as well. This blood fiend with big scissors asked which one was Don Quixote, as her eyesight had declined. Honglu understood this woman to be the overseer of Area 1. Hugo was scared for his life. The overseer asked which one was Don Quixote, who came first place in that attraction. Hugo recognized her mask. The overseer asked which one she was, and the rest of them can press the button and head over to the next area. And just as Don Quixote was about to say this, Hugo sold her out. Quite unnecessarily, as she was going to say that anyway. She was quick to say that, but Hugo was quicker. Which was surprising, as he was slow to tell them anything else. Sadly, this was the typical fixer mentality, the kind that would sell their own out for their own personal gain. Hugo asked if he could press the button now. He was doing this to get a 1.5 times eradication reward. Ryushu found this amusing, telling them how was he going to press that button now, as she sliced Hugo's hands off with her katana scabbard. Don Quixote wanted to know why Ryushu did that to a compatriot. Ryushu didn't see him as one, Dante reminding her that he was trying to sell her out. She understood, even if she didn't exactly approve of this. Ryushu detected treachery the moment she saw him. She waited to see if he could if he could demonstrate even a small amount of creativity when pulling this off, but she saw him as tired, meek and cliched, insulted by his lack of creativity. Dante understood that she would have let him do his thing if it was interesting. This only amused the overseer, laughing as if she had just inhaled a non-lethal dose of Joker toxin, asking how did she know? She was going to kill him herself. He was too scruffy and slovenly to press the button. Well, I can't call Hugo dead weight anymore, as now he's just dead. Don Quixote was silent at this as the overseer asked if she was the Don Quixote that won her game. She confirmed this. The overseer asked how did she win? Don Quixote told her that she rescued a number of innocents and killed many villains to vanquish those like her. The overseer laughed at this. Don Quixote asked what was funny. Apparently she was so happy, asking how she liked the game, asking if it's her favourites. She wanted to add a few more decorations, including frilly lace, but she was out of time. Blood bags needed to be kept track of, as, well, they can't really do much of anything themselves, only simple instructions can be followed by them. Don Quixote saw this as a horrible crime to confess to. She's not there to play games. She's there to eradicate that terrible place that takes people and to slay the blood fiends within. The overseer asked why she wasn't wearing the outfit that she made for her, seeing this as discourteous that she didn't make herself look presentable. Gregor wasn't seeing the conversations as connecting. Ishmael saw her as nuts and wanted to put her out of her misery. This amused the overseer, seeing Ishmael as looking good in a can-can dress with boots and ribbons. Oh, no. Try that, and you'll get her mace right up your wide end first. They then fought the overseer, who became, she could become slower as her SP lowered and her attack power went up, which can eat away at her SP by 5. The damned dozen found out that slash attacks weren't effective. Rough and sloth affinity even less so. However, all other sin affinities, Yes, all other sin affinities except envy were what she was vulnerable to. As you would expect from a blood fiend, her attacks focused on making the enemy bleed, and her attacks became harder hitting when more bleed was on her targets. She can sometimes make use of her attacks many times and even cut deeper when she feasts on blood, and prioritizes those who she sees as a target for sowing. There's also one attack where she can instantly kill a target with 30% HP or lower, which can also cause her to be more vulnerable to damage temporarily. Identities with bleed are best avoided here, as there's enough bleed inflicted without that adding to it. Especially as bleed adds to the blood feast count, which makes the enemy stronger. Like the lesser blood fiends and blood bags, but worse. Targets with bleed, if hit, can also heal the Overseer, and can recover SP. Well, after a lengthy battle, she was defeated by the Damned Dozen. This caused the injured Overseer of Area 1 to remember something, as her mask slipped off. She thought that it was rude of her not to say hello to their visitors. What was under that mask made Sinclair want to vomit in disgust. Dante commented on that mask, and Don Quixote wasn't surprised. As far as she was concerned, it hid the moral decay of the blood fiends. The Overseer saw it as courteous, as it was impolite to wear a mask in front of their guests. Ryushu was silent at this, as was Dante, who saw her face as bloodied and mangled. It felt wrong to look at her in that state. She then shouted at them not to look at her like that. If they're going to kill her, at least do so with her mask on. She knew that they would. What's a little favour between them? This pleading was directed at Don Quixote, who just stood there, stunned at the intensity of the Overseer's screeching. Then a slow voice began to echo from the void. He said that the barber used to enjoy wearing cuter, prettier masks, something with more charm, a more elaborate design, where she thought that terrifying, rough masks only served to scare people. She believed that it was only fair that she wore a prettier mask. Yes, a prettier mask, now that her face was shrouded. Dante could see that this one was new. Wootis advised that they stay alert. Sinclair asked if there was only one Overseer blood fiend in each area, suspecting that he might be from a different area, asking why would he... Wootis regretted not getting more information out of Hugo before he betrayed them. So, well, yes. That's fair enough. And Heathcliff saw this as a bit much. 2 older blood fiends right at the entrance. This dandy of a blood fiend saw that they were tired after the battle against the barber. He then had a proposition for them. He's gone there and back again on all kinds of adventures. Yet he's but a guide and a greeter there at La Mancha Land. A place of blooming smiles and dreams. Yeah, cut the sales talk. He offered to open the path for them, should they promise to tell them all about their wonderful adventures, so that they may find the prize that they seek, so that they may not lose their way this time. This confused Dante. Then this newcomer asked if that's not what they seek. Why would they slaughter scores of blood fiends? And it was clear now that he was speaking to Don Quixote. She admitted that she went on many adventures, so many that her throat would be dry before it ends. But she wasn't fooled. She's not there for treasure. She's there to vanquish wicked blood fiends like him. She will not compromise with villains. Newcomer had a feeling that she might say that, but that wouldn't do. She had to share it with everyone, the most wondrous adventures of hers. This was unclear to Don Quixote as she, saw him raise his staff, and this shut her up, as if she was no longer in control of her voluntary motor functions by supernatural forces. Clearly, he was not going to give her choice in this matter. He never did. Don Quixote struggled to get anything out at all. The newcomer asked her to hold on a moment. They can't have a good tale without a proper backdrop and some music to set the mood. And with a quick flick of his staff, he rapidly shifted and warped everything around them. This was episode 1, in which are recounted the most wondrous adventures of Don Quixote. Gregor didn't know what was going on there, and Dante suspected golden bar resonance. The newcomer told Don Quixote to recall the days of adventure she once lived. Then Don Quixote found herself in a suit of armor, saying that she had faced countless perils and enemies in her tales of adventures. The Blood Fiend asked her to share a few select adventures that she found particularly memorable, to let everyone see her grand exploits in plain sight. Selecting a specific tale called the Hallowed Adventures of Don Quixote and the Knight of the White Moon, he then put a helmet on. Otis asked if this was who he really was. He denied this. He decided to introduce himself now. He was Sanson, their guide on that visit of theirs to La Mancha land. This was nothing more than a role to play. This title was somewhat familiar to Don Quixote. Sanson asked if she looked close enough, seeing this is annoying to her, so he gave that role to another person, incomplete and with a sign of great potential, giving this role to Sinclair. He was confused by the change of attire, and, Dante noticed that Sinclair had gone quiet, like he was being prevented from speaking. Faust compared this to actors being on stage. As long as Sanson is talking, breaking character is impossible. Roger asked if it was safe. I think it's safe to assume that if he wanted you dead, he'd have killed you by now. Sanson narrated the tale that the pair sought a certain river, the tales of which have only been told through legends. Only the Knight of the White Moon knew the path to find it. Don Quixote was merely going along as directed. Then he remembered the other member of the party, Rocinante. Each had distinct footsteps. The knight had an experienced yet relaxed gait. Rocinante had a stoic yet powerful stride, and Don Quixote was stumbling all over the place. They were heading to a deep place where none feared to tread, the deepest part of the city. That was once challenged by countless adventurers, knights and fixers, a tranquil place, inhabited only by floating nebulae. Sinclair, as the Knight of the White Moon, told Don Quixote that they only had a little farther to venture. Once they find a river, or rather the river, he'll guide her to a place that she'll be living in from that point onwards, an abandoned lighthouse that no one visits, asking her to make that place her home. Sanson knew that the hero had a place to live, seen kindness in a loyal friend. Don Quixote trusted him to lead her to... Then Sanson stopped her as she didn't have a line there. She didn't say anything at that point, possibly due to excitement and possibly anticipation. It's not the most exciting start of the adventure, deciding to move on. Indeed, this sounded like the end of the story. Then we move on to episode 2, which treats Don Quixote's encounter with the bandits. Then Heathcliff found himself unable to move. Massault saw that there's no way to escape the stage play. Dante saw that if they can't escape, they can at least pay attention to it. They didn't pay attention to Don Quixote's stories before. None of them did. Seeing them as too ridiculous, too tiring, and made too many excuses to avoid them. Dante saw it as a good idea to pay attention to her story, the story that they never knew. Sanson narrated the tale. The great adventurer Don Quixote visited many villages. Then the background changed to show one such village, a village of shepherds. Don Quixote agreed with this, one that was routinely terrorized by a band of highwaymen and raiders. The villagers' faces with fear in them. She asked one of them what was plaguing them. Rodia, dressed as a shepherd, said her lines that she's the brave and famous adventurer Don Quixote, asking her to deliver them from pain. Then she saw the wicked bandits were there at the village. Don Quixote vowed not to let this slide. This plain villainy and bullying, she shall take care of them herself. Rodia saw that there were too many for her to defeat by herself. Don Quixote assured her not to worry about her. She had yet to fail to prevail in her adventures. Then Sanson saw that something was off. Don Quixote was tired of this, wanted to know what this was. Sanson was asking if it was the Night of the White Moon or her trusty steed, Rocinante. Don Quixote admitted it was Rocinante. She had shared many adventures alongside him. A friend and a compatriot that she wouldn't trade for anything, asking if Rocinante wouldn't agree. Gregor, as Rocinante agreed. Thankfully, Rocinante wasn't a donkey in this. Otherwise, that could have resulted in some legal issues. This amused Rodia, asking if he had been turned into a horse. Sanson told them to focus on the adventure, as Don Quixote was unable to fend off the bandits on her own, even as the hero she was. Don Quixote admitted that there was too many of them. The battle would be tough, as the villagers feared. Gregor asked if the plan would succeed. Don Quixote asked if he had a better plan. Gregor didn't, as he didn't know as much as her. She would then stand as herself. She would stand without fear. Gregor made it clear that they were terribly outnumbered, telling her to know when to back down is not to flee. Then she needs to know when to stop her stride when danger outweighed hope. Sanson saw that Rocinante wasn't as brave as Don Quixote was, and not very compliant for a horse or a pair of running shoes. Gregor was unable to talk back. Don Quixote disapproved of Rocinante. She had yet to know a pair of running shoes as rebellious as him. Did he not see her courage to fight them? Then she'd prove it to him. So she would leap into the fray as he had not seen before, telling the bandits not to flee. She stabbed with the full force of her lance. And then a battle occurred, where they fought cutouts of bandits that was weaker than the barber that they fought not too long ago. And this fight, and other fights in the rest of this act, was to the tune of a Spanish style, yes, I need to get better at English, background music, with what sounded like flamenco guitars playing. Ole! Don Quixote told them that she eventually managed to purge all the bandits from the village. Peace was restored. Roger thanked her for protecting their village, asking how can they repay her. Sansan saw that the village spoke of a reward for this brave adventurer. Of course they did. Expecting a reward for a job well done, it was natural. Who would do something difficult for nothing? Don Quixote told her that there was no need. She did her duty as a righteous fixer. This surprised Roger. Helping them for free? No compensation? Don Quixote saw it as her duty as a fixer. If she wished to help, she asked for whatever it was. Roger agreed that for her. Don Quixote saw it as not important. Not that important. It was... She struggled to remember the specifics, and this puzzled Roger. Then we saw a memory of Don Quixote. Well, it was received by Dante, where the shepherd asked how they could repay them. They didn't have much money. Don Quixote saw that the running shoes could fetch a nice price. Then someone else saw this as distasteful. They don't dispense justice based on the promise of money. If they wish to help... Dante questioned if this came from Don Quixote. Sanson can't tolerate dead silence on the stage. He decided to move things forward and head to the next tale. I have a suspicion that the current mentality of fixers, as in those primarily motivated by greed, is not how they were in the past, if this memory is anything to go by. Considering that Don Quixote is a blood fiend that's at least 200 years old. Ideas change with time and culture. It was possible that the typical self-serving mentality of fixers wasn't as pronounced in the past. Then we have episode 3, in which is recounted the matter of Don Quixote and the helmet. Sanson narrated the continued adventures of Don Quixote. Gregor as Rocinante spoke of that relic, or whatever it is, asking if it's real. What if they're lying to them? Don Quixote didn't believe so. They wouldn't lie to the one that saved them. She's certain that it's close. Sanson narrated that they're clearly looking for something. The scene transitions to a woodland, and she asked a traveller of the road if she's heard of the tale of a noble knightly helm, of the absolutely and incandescently resplendent Mambrino. Who it is in costume who told her that if she's looking for that helmet, she might want to go up that little hill, walking along the trail all the way to the cave. Keep going deeper until the helm is found. At least that's what everyone is saying. Don Quixote shall march there then. Then she and Rocinante journeyed into the cave in search of that legendary helm. It wasn't easy, as in the way there was a big, scary bear, which was Heathcliff in a bear costume. He was an even actor than Gregor. Don Quixote pointed out to Rocinante that there's a man-eating bear in front of them. Heathcliff was off at this get-up, continuing his below-amateur acting. Gregor was beholding the bear, asking if Don Quixote can handle it. She could. A mere beast shan't match her strength. Or even his strength, if he adds to that. Then there was a mini-boss battle against the cutout of a bear, which was weak to slash and pierce and dealt a mix of rupture, bleed, and fragile. Its block could either provide protection or more attack power. The passives were more damage dealt, especially when at 50% HP or lower, and the chance of an enemy in the clash losing 1 SP, which is negligible. This was nothing that the damned dozen couldn't handle. After that battle, and I use this term loosely, as this was a warped reality where cutouts can be damaging, Don Quixote told them that they vanquished the bear and claimed the fabled helm of Mambrino. Then another memory of Don Quixote came to Dante, where she asked, "Really? A bear?" She could obliterate that poor animal in less than 3, and someone didn't see there being any fun in that. No fun at all. They'll battle that beast like something from the books. Sinclair asked if these stories were actually adventures of Don Quixote. Yi Sang admitted that they didn't give her a chance to regale them with these tales. Hong Lu admitted that she only talked about adventures of other fixers. Ishmael admitted that she would persistently nag them about their own adventures. Dante saw that it was worth listening to, especially as it's quite relevant to their current situation. Radia wasn't sure what happened. She was saying the lines as if she knew them by heart. Gregor felt as if their minds would be controlled. They felt as if they were really there, even though it felt absurd. Thus, he remembered transforming into a horse, then a pair of running shoes. But he was still himself. Sanson saw this story as better than that juvenile, naive story of peace and happiness between humans and blood fiends that this attraction had to tell. He asked, where would you place that helm, that priceless artifact? He'd wear it on his head every day. Don Quixote admitted that the helm didn't fit her head, so she had to leave it in her warehouse, as far as she was aware. Sanson saw this as a shame, not keeping a close eye on something important, something she went to a great amount of trouble to claim. She might regret that decision someday. As much as he wants to hear what comes next, he had to depart. He'll open the entrance to Area 2, not seeing any other blood fiends who are as honest about their promises as he was. Don Quixote was incensed at this. Sadly, she couldn't pursue Sanson as the effect of his powers hadn't worn off yet. Sanson asked what tales will await them in the next area. He hoped that Don Quixote enjoyed La Manchalan's next area. Dante didn't sense this as a Golden Bower resonance. It felt slightly different. Ishmael didn't have a clue, other than that they were frozen in place as if collectively hypnotized. Sinclair didn't see this as like Yi Sang's fathoms. Yi Sang confirmed this, as they were merely reenacting his past with a pre-written script that they read voluntarily. Gregor asked if it was Sanson's special ability. Faust theorized that he took advantage of La Manchalan's golden bar resonating with Don Quixote and inserted his own power there to cause this. Dante advised steering clear of Sanson. Faust was silent at this, like the understanding that he'll be unavoidable. Dante noticed this, and to themselves, they didn't want to continue the story. They shouldn't. They lacked the courage to tell the others what they've been thinking all this time. That Don Quixote, the hero of that story where she fought the bandits and protected the village, whose eyes twinkled with excitement at taking down La Manchaland, will be eventually forced to reveal that she's a second kindred blood fiend. Faust was about to make something clear to Dante. Then Don Quixote was annoyed by the fact that Sanson was eluding them. But they're at least consoled by the fact that they've taken out one of the overseers and activated Area 1's device. It was successful so far. A return to form after that enraged moment. Then Faust continued that there comes a time when one must awaken from their dream. Dante understood this to mean that the answer pointed towards something else. Once that button was pressed, there was a low rumbling emanating from around them. A large passageway slowly emerged before that group. Like gargantuan parts of a great machine, ponderously clicked into place. Don Quixote urged them to quickly move on to the next part of this. Clearly, Sanson had the ability to warp reality in a specific way, one with very clear rules. And he didn't appear to be directly affiliated with La Mancha Land, although he did have an interest in current affairs, specifically with Don Quixote. Well, that was Act 1. A bit slow at first, but it picks up. Until next time. Hail the rabbit!